Have there been any aha moments in your journey where you in some way felt that, wow, this was an important understanding of the I, because the I is so central in psychosynthesis. It all starts and in some way ends with the I, because the I is also what leads us to the higher self or transpersonal self. I really recognize this way, this approach you are speaking about. Has there been any development in your work with awareness training and the will? Can you say anything about that?
Absolutely, and then we actually touch upon what we were going to talk about later, which is the Alcoholics Anonymous, because I acquainted AA for short already in 2005 something.
Okay.
And learned to know about their philosophy and their spiritual foundation. So there has been sort of a parallel and a synthesis between the two of them in my personal life as well, because in the AA program and philosophy, there is very profound spiritual principle, which is not that explicit in psychosynthesis in the same way, which is surrender. So from the realization of the I and the importance of I for the ability to be in the present and not drown in the fear of the future or history of the past. I'm actually using surrender at a daily basis. When I encounter some kind of resistance in myself, some sort of disappointment, some kind of difficult situation, I use surrender, and I could not have used surrender if I did not have that awareness and presence.
No, exactly. Oh, yeah. So I know that as a Jolie speaks about the surrendering will as a way of underlining that the will is not just masculine. There's also a feminine will, and an aspect of that feminine will is actually this ability to surrender to something greater than yourself and have a trust in the connection that you establish when this surrendering is genuine. So it really resonates. So when you encounter some kind of an obstacle in your life or something that triggers your subconscious reactions, what is your technique, or what is your mode then when confronted with that situation?
Well, first, it's probably very, very human that I get angry or sad, or I react, and then I observe my reaction.
Yeah.
And more and more quickly, I'm able to choose to sort of make the decision to surrender and say to myself that I don't know how to solve this now at this point in time. I need to surrender this to the higher good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think that's illuminating, and so you can say that the more we have established ourselves as the observing I, and I like to call it the loving observer, because that's helped us accept what is present in our consciousness. But very often I really recognize, we can observe things, and we can also accept that we are acting in a way that it's not perhaps optimal, but this is just the situation right now, and I cannot or now I'm speaking about myself, and then I realize I cannot handle the situation. I'm just carried away by, it could be anger, or it could be sadness, or whatever. But I'm still observing, and I think this is the first foothold. This is the first. If we can learn to be there, being present to what is emerging in our consciousness, and accept it, I think we really have created a very important inner space from where we then can start applying the will. And I understand that the first act of will in some way that you are doing is acting in a way to surrender to the situation.
Yes.
So there are many choices in such a situation. We could start fighting it, or we could start distracting ourselves, and we could start feeling powerless and succumb to that. But you act in a way, you choose your will, or by using your will, surrender to the situation. And what happened? What kind of state do you invoke when you surrender to?
That's really an interesting question, because it's sort of a paradox. So initially, I feel powerless in a certain situation, and I choose to surrender the situation to a higher power, as they say in AA.
Yeah.
Which for me feels empowering. So it sets me in contact with a sense of peace and release and humbleness. And it feels like, things get into a right order. That I position myself as part of a greater whole, and not as the queen of my universe, if I may.
Yes.
And by positioning myself in that way, I also, I guess the experience of being humble, which is a beautiful feeling, is very explicit, and my experience over time is that I actually, in some way, find a way to solve the situation that I'm in.
Yeah. So how do you feel empowered? What's the nature of that kind of empowerment?
I think it is the trust that I have built in the spiritual principle, and the experience I have had through the years.
Do you differentiate between a higher power, could be your own soul, when we use psychosynthesis terminology, or transpersonal self, but higher power could also be God, if one has that kind of perspective on reality. Do you differentiate between soul and God, or are you just open to some higher guiding principle?
I less and less, I would say, that I distinguish between my higher self and the universal self, or God, or unconditional love, or creative intelligence, whatever you want to call it. I think that it's the same impulse that comes through to me as an individual. For me personally, it's not important to distinguish between a higher self and a higher power.
No. Okay. So this is this is a core attitude of what you describe here, and this way of working with yourself and your approach to life is for me a core experience of psychosynthesis. I would say that you add the surrendering. I agree that it's rare that you hear this approach to surrendering in psychosynthesis literature, and I really think that it's a very, very important aspect of aligning between conscious I and higher powers or transpersonal self, because it expands your awareness from being attached to your ego consciousness, this contracted awareness that you are alone. Because whenever we are, and also the conscious eyes, there is a sense of separation, even though it's more clear and it's more free, but it's still separated. And I think we need that leap of faith, this faith in something higher to expand our consciousness and let some light in from a higher source in many situations. And I really like the quality of humbleness and seeing yourself as in service of something greater, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. And that, especially when I sit with clients and encounter a situation where I'm not sure what to say, what to do, what kind of intervention I should use.
Yeah.
So then I quietly, inside myself, surrender the situation. And every time I get an impulse that is meaningful and turns out to be meaningful for the other person as well.
Yeah.
So it's such a wonderful tool, really.